Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Coach Candy here with Coffee Chats. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, y'all. We are getting ready to rock and roll and continue our conversation about motivation and what to do when you're feeling stuck or feeling unmotivated or demotivated for that matter. Good morning, Herbie. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your juice, grab your water, grab whatever it is, and let's get rocking and rolling. Good morning, Carol. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, Paul. Let everybody jump on here. Hola, ¿cómo está? Good morning, Shirley. Love watching everybody jump in the morning. Just get everybody settled. We are going to continue in our conversation. Good morning, Kathy. Continue in our conversation. We are going to explore some more reasons why we feel stuck sometimes and where we feel unmotivated. Hey. So just to recap, for those of you that might not have been on the last couple days or joined us late, we have been talking about why you feel when you get stuck, what happens, why you're feeling unmotivated, why you feel like sometimes, good morning, Deborah, why you feel like sometimes you just can't get momentum moving forward. And we talked about tapping into your potential and how that leads to taking massive action, which leads to results, which starts to create that bucket of your own self-worth, your belief in your self-worth, I should say, your conviction and your confidence. And so we talked about what happens when you're not tapping into your potential, what happens when you're not creating those big actions, those massive actions, what might be getting in the way, what are some of the things, good morning, Martha, some of the things that are creating that space to feel demotivated or unmotivated, however you want to say that. And so Tuesday we talked about fear being one of those things that's getting in the way. And how do you make excuses and what shows up when you're feeling fear, when you're feeling anxiousness, when you're starting to create some of those narratives. And again, for those of you that want to really dig into some of this, I encourage you to join our Yes Monthly program. We get into that at a really deep level, and especially things around the narratives and the stories and the limiting beliefs that you're creating. So we talked about how that fear starts to paralyze you and create some of those stories, which is holding you back from stepping in the arena, right? And so then yesterday we spent the time, or actually Wednesday, right? No, Wednesday. Yesterday, I don't know what day of the week it is. We talked about, and I might have my days wrong, so I apologize if I do. We talked about some of the other aspects of what might be holding you back in terms of firing on all cylinders and tapping into that motivation. And good morning, Kevin. And so we talked about not having the right goals or having too many goals or priorities on your plate. We talked about having a lack of clarity either around your goals or around boundaries and expectations that you need. Good morning, Yvette. Thank you. And we talked about having those, your values feeling like they're in conflict and what happens when you're in that space, right? And then we talked about the lack of autonomy or the lack of connection and what that looks like. And then the last thing we talked about yesterday was the lack of challenge, not feeling like something is pushing you out of your comfort zone to stimulate that growth, to put you in that space of how do you take action? How do you dig in deeper, right? And so those were the spaces that we've really talked about the last couple of days. Today, I want to get into a couple more areas of why sometimes we feel unmotivated and what can we do and what might be getting in the way and what are some of those stories. And one of them is we have life happens, right? And oftentimes life can throw a curveball or something can happen in our life that can cause us some grief. And so we might have had a loss of a pet or a loss of a parent or a loss of something. It could even be the letting go of someone or something that no longer serves you in your life. And oftentimes when we go through that bless and release process, there's some grief that shows up. We have some space where we need to heal. We have a space where our emotions really are, kind of, they feel overwhelming at times. And so being able to honor that space where when grief shows up, how do you honor the time and the space that you need inside of that, and knowing and recognizing that that might be what's keeping you from feeling motivated or keeping you from feeling like you can move forward. And so when the trauma shows up, first of all, I want to tell you that there's no time frame for when you're supposed to feel your grief. Every person experiences grief differently. They have different durations for how long that lasts. And there's ways that you can start to create momentum when you're in that, when you're experiencing that. And it's taking those small baby steps, right? It's doing one thing that allows you to feel like you're stepping forward. It's doing one thing that lights you up. It's doing one thing that puts you back into your passion. It's creating some of that playful energy, right? So giving yourself that space, and we talked a little bit about that yesterday, that love and grace space, right? Where you can really allow yourself that compassion, that kindness to move through that. And so when you recognize that, it's being kind to yourself, and it's taking on those small steps that are those sparks of joy, those sparks of passion, those sparks of things that can really hit you. Oh, Martha, my deepest condolences. Sending lots of love, light, and prayers to you and your family as you talk about losing a family member last week. And so first of all, really honor you for being here with that going on, and just know that we're sending you lots of light, love, and prayers and holding you in our heart as you're going through this. And so for you in particular, as you look at how you're experiencing your own emotions through that, be kind to yourself, right? Good morning, Ruben. Be kind to yourself. Really allow yourself that space to create the space for healing. And you might be grieving a relationship. You might be grieving things that aren't, an actual person leaving. It could just be something that's being removed for your life, or it could be a life transition, or it could be leaving a job. We have all kinds of different levels of grief. And the thing is one is to release the judgment inside that space. We have so much judgment as a culture around what's okay or what's acceptable in terms of how much time you're allowed to grieve. I'm so tired of people saying, oh, suck it up and move on. It doesn't work that way. We are all wired differently, and everything has a different emotional connection for us individually. And I might have somebody that I don't grieve as much as I would somebody else. And grief is a very personal process. And so honor that for yourself, and take those moments to create those little sparks of joy, those little sparks of passion, those things that feed your soul. And so it's really important, if you're feeling like you're sitting in some grief right now, if you're sitting in that space where you're not feeling motivated because you are feeling heavy with the grief that's around you, is to find ways to honor and create self-love for yourself. That is going to be one of the most meaningful, powerful ways that you can move forward. Good morning, Ty. So Herbie, moving on is difficult. That was my entire 2018, which resulted in an evaluation and inventory of my life and major changes. Yeah, sometimes you got to change your environment. Sometimes you got to get out of, I know for me, when I've gone through some major grief, it's meant a major job change or major move, or because for me, I needed a fresh start. I needed something to clean the slate. And like I said, for every person, that's really personal. And the most important thing you can do inside of that space of grief is not trying to push yourself back into feeling motivated and getting stuff done. It's allowing yourself that self-compassion and that self-love to heal and to do the things that really fill your cup. So this is when things like going for a walk in nature, spending time with your loved ones, going for a massage, going to your favorite restaurant, things that are really enjoyable for you, that spark joy, that spark passion, that feed your soul a little bit, that fill your cup. It's really important in those moments that those are, good morning. It's really important that during that time, if you want to get back in the game, if you want to get the groove back on, if you want to get into a space where you feel like, okay, I can get the motivation going again and the momentum going again, it starts by really honoring yourself first, and letting go of all the noise. Destroy the noise around you. When people are like, well, okay, suck it up. You need to move on. You've been grieving too long. It's up to nobody but you to decide what your journey, what your path looks like when you're in the grief. And so I say that because I know that that's a space where there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of shoulding going on. And so just want you to honor yourself in that space first. So take it one day at a time and go easy on yourself. Let go of all the demanding pressure, the push, the resistance, the I gotta get this done, and give yourself a break. And so that's the biggest thing I can tell you when you're sitting in that space when, it comes to motivation, is just be easy on yourself, be loving and kind and compassionate, and have some grace for yourself. sometimes, and this goes back to what we talked about yesterday, one of the things we talked about was lack of autonomy, creating the space to feel unmotivated. There's also the lack of connection or feeling lonely. When we feel like we're detached from everything, when we feel like we've isolated ourselves perhaps from everything that's going on around us, we create this sense of loneliness for ourselves. And have you ever been in a group of people where there's being alone and there's feeling lonely? And those are two different things. I love my alone time. I absolutely 1000%. I am as much an introvert as I am an extrovert. And I know for some people that surprises you. And I am as much an introvert as I am an extrovert. And when I'm done with all this, sometimes, especially when I come off stage or do my days of training or workshops or things like that, I want to like hibernate. I want to be the Cancer that I am, and I want to like be a hermit, and I want to go deep, and I don't want to talk to anybody, and I barely say anything to Peyton. I just am with him. So I love to be alone. Being alone is very different than feeling loneliness. And if you've ever been in a group, a crowd of people where you've still felt loneliness, even though you've had lots of people around you, oftentimes that's a space that creates that sense of feeling unmotivated. It's because we feel isolated, we feel detached, we're missing, and I mentioned this yesterday, but we're missing that piece of feeling connected. And if you look at our culture right now, there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of people feeling disconnected, disengaged, not feeling like they're really belonging to anything, which is where you're seeing some of this space of entitlement, where you're seeing some of this hate crimes, where you're seeing people are not learning how to lean in and connect. And what we're doing is we're complaining and commiserating instead. And you know, I've shared this and talked about this numerous times. We have a culture that we walk around and we talk about how busy we are, and we talk about how much our life sucks, and we talk about how hard it is and how tired we are and how nobody gets us, blah, blah, blah. And all we do is bitch and complain. And we're in this space where we just unload all the time. And instead of really leaning in to hold people accountable on that, or really leaning in to get in the underbelly and have more meaningful conversations, what do? We like get sucked into it and we complain and commiserate with them, right? And so we've created this culture where it's like who can outsuck who has become our metric. And we get into a place where we're complaining and commiserating, and that's where we feel this sense of belonging, when actually that's not a sense of belonging at all. It's a sense of, you know, acceptance and belonging. If you're do any of Brene Brown's work, belonging and acceptance are two different things. And actually the need to feel accepted takes away from our sense to belong, because we need to belong to ourselves first. And I love that she talks about that. And what happens is we have such an opportunity to lean in and have courageous, connected conversations. We have an opportunity to build connection and community, which we're missing in so many spaces. And when you think about that, this space of feeling loneliness has created all kinds of unmotivation all around us in this space of entitlement, and everybody's just waiting to be handed something instead of going out there and creating the change that they want to see, right? And so that space of loneliness, that space of feeling isolated, can be so debilitating, and it's very different than that space and choice of being alone. And so I want you to recognize the two. Good morning, Mateo. Namaste. You bet. I love my alone time, but I love being with people. Absolutely. The alone time recharges me. And most people need some space to recharge alone. And being alone and choosing to be alone is very different. There's an empowered feeling of, I'm okay. I enjoy my company. I actually love being around me. It's taken me a long time to say that. I mean, I'm 46 years old. It's taken a long time to say I enjoy my own company, because so many people don't enjoy their own company, which is also the precipice of why they're feeling such loneliness, because they can't even feel connected to themselves, within themselves, and with whatever their higher power beliefs are. And so oftentimes we feel isolated because we don't even have that sense of belonging for ourselves. And that creates all kinds of space to feel unmotivated and stuck, because we don't even know who we are. We don't know, we're not taking the time to ask meaningful questions about, what do I need right now? What lights me up? What am I passionate about? And I've done, and I'll be doing some more webinars on this. People keep saying, what's my purpose? Where's my purpose? And they keep pushing that out instead of realizing that You are your purpose. And when you're able to connect in and have that sense of belonging for yourself, you let go of that feeling of loneliness, because then you realize you're connected to everything else around you. And so I want you, good morning, Melinda, I want you to think about the difference between the choice of being alone, which is an empowered space to say, I enjoy my time by myself. This is my time for reflection and connection into who I am and what I belong to first. And loneliness can happen even when you're amidst a crowd of people, if you're feeling isolated and detached and not connected to who's there. So when I don't spend enough time with people, I can feel it. Absolutely, I agree with that. Carol, totally relate with the loneliness and impact on motivation. Been focusing on collaboration opportunities for growth. Yes, and this is really a slippery slope, a slippery slope for entrepreneurs sometimes, especially if you own your business and I work from home. When I'm not traveling, I'm here and it's Peyton, and it can get really easy for me to inadvertently or subconsciously or unconsciously isolate myself, where I feel like, man, I'm connecting with everybody like this, and I'm missing real connection. I went out to 2 networking events this week. I make it intentional to have dinner or lunch with a girlfriend or go have coffee so that I can have real connection space inside of all of what I'm doing. And it's not to say that there's not connection here. There absolutely is. It's why I show up every morning. I wouldn't be here if there wasn't this connection. And we need living, breathing energy around us as well. And there's only so much we can do. And so many people hide behind this technology, or they hide behind this. How many people have you seen out to dinner together where it's like they're with their family and the family's actually texting each other, or they're sitting there? We've lost the ability. And this, when we are too focused on this and we're not engaged with the humanity, the semblance of humanity and the people and the energy around us, and we're not building really deep connections, we can create the space of isolation and loneliness. It is one of the things that happens, and entrepreneurs have a really slippery slope because it's really easy to get into the groove of what they're doing. They're online, they're doing all these things, they're out on social media, they're on video, so they seem like they're connecting, and yet they still can feel really isolated and detached because this is so two-dimensional sometimes. And what we need to do is we need to pull ourselves out of the technology. We need to pull ourselves out of all of these distractions and allow ourselves to get really present and really connected and open up real meaningful conversations. And so, like, even for me, I noticed that, like, in these conversations, they're great and we start getting things rolling, but I so appreciate when I can have the one-on-one conversation afterwards, or with the deep dive immersion spaces that I'm creating, where I'm bringing 6 people in to actually spend time together to dig into conversations over a couple of days. That's where the connection really happens. So when you create the space in between that, that's where the magic occurs, right? And so if you're feeling like there's a sense of loneliness, or you're feeling isolated, think about how you can connect. Maybe it's just calling up somebody and having a coffee. Maybe it's asking somebody to take your dogs for a walk. Maybe, and being really present with them, being really present in the moment. You also can do that just for yourself by being really present in the moment. This is where I say, stop half-assing things in your life. Stop being halfway in one thing, halfway in another thing. You're watching, you're vegging out, you need some self-care time, and you're watching your favorite, marathon on Netflix, and you're in your computer, and you're on your phone, and you're distracted. Oh my gosh, fully commit to things and be present, even in the space that's for your recharge. Because what happens is when we're half-assing everything, we're not accomplishing anything, or it's taking us forever to accomplish, and we don't have a sense of fulfillment, which also feeds that space of belonging. And so, as we like to say, don't half-ass anything. Stop half-assing your life and start going both cheeks in. So I just say that just to be a little punchy this morning on a Thursday. So Yvette, over time I went from working in an office with 60 people to now working with 6 to 7 people. Yeah, and for those of you that are extrovert that need a lot of energy, then it's how do you create meaningful spaces with a few when you were relying on pulling that energy from many. And so watch where your stories are getting in the way around, well, I had this, now I have this, no wonder why. And what can you do to redirect? And if you're not getting it in your workspace, how do you then find it and create it in spaces outside of that? That space of connection is really important, as is your need. A human fundamental need is the sense of belonging. It's one of our core fundamental needs as humans, is that we belong, and we need to learn how to connect and belong to ourselves first. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is the story of my life in corporate, why you feel unmotivated. For those of you that are extreme type A personalities, you are the self-proclaimed and truthful overachievers. You are high D's, you get shit done. You are the multitaskers that are always taking on everything and got 4,000 plates you're spinning in the air. I want you to know that one of the reasons why you're feeling stuck is because you're in one phase or another of burnout, and that space of burnout is real. And I like to tell people that there are 3 levels of burnout, and I'm an expert in all 3 of them. It is part of why I now do this work, because I hit rock bottom hard when I was in corporate because of burnout multiple times. I took out a guardrail when I fell asleep in my car because I was so overtired and exhausted that I couldn't stay awake at 5 in the morning when I was heading home. And I just got into the rhythm of the that I took out a huge guardrail and, $2,500 damage to my car. Not to mention the shame story. Cancel clear, let me try that again. Shame storm I was in when I realized I could have hurt somebody, and I was so grateful that I took out a guardrail instead of hitting another car or doing damage in another way. And I say that because this is the reality. I was in the hospital at 35 because I thought I was having a heart attack, because the pain in my chest was so debilitating that I had physiologically manifested a mass in my chest, because I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, because I was sleeping with, at that time, my BlackBerry on my other pillow. And I was so fired up with anxiety and stress, and I was allowing myself to wind and grind and burn and churn and living in that environment, that I manifested a mass that actually tripped a sliding hiatal hernia I didn't even know I had. But let me tell you, it was debilitating. I couldn't even stand up. And here's the signs of burnout when you're like, I don't even have time to go to the doctor right now. So I was walking around not able to breathe until it got so painful that it almost made me pass out. That's the signs that start to show up. So I'm an expert when it comes to burnout, and there's 3 levels. The first level is just burnout. It's the space where you're starting to get exhausted. It's the space where you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't feel like it. I feel like, it's Groundhog's Day every day. I get up, I go to work. I may take the edge off some way, and I go to sleep. It's the same routine every day. There's nothing that fires me up. I'm feeling like it's a repetitive hamster wheel going on and on and on, and I am exhausted. That's the first level of burnout. The next level is the fumes past the burnout. So this is where it starts to get really difficult to actually get out of bed in the morning. This is where you start snapping at people, and you start having that energy that you're getting annoyed at things that never used to annoy you. This is the fumes where your diet and your exercise start to completely go out of whack. This is the space where your personality is on edge all the time. And then there's the space past that, which is what I call the black abyss. That's the running into a guardrail because you can't stay awake at the wheel. That's being in the hospital because you're allowing yourself to put this much pressure and stress and working 100 hours a week for who? This is when not only can't you get up in the morning, it takes everything you have to move one foot in front of the other. Like you find yourself just randomly crying for no reason. Like you are angry and you're crying and your emotions are everywhere. And if you know anything of what I'm talking about, those are signs to hit the pause button. And I mean that sincerely. Those are signs to take a huge inventory check of what's going on in your life and to say, is this what I want my life to be about? Is this what's meaningful for me? And I made some real decisions. One of them, leaving the company I was working for when I hit that rock bottom. As much as I loved what I was doing, I knew it was killing me. And it was very clear that if I didn't make some significant changes at the age of 35, I would have had one foot in the grave by the time I was 40. And so moving through a different space to embrace what mattered most for me was a way to reclaim that space back. And I started to get motivated when I knew what was happening to my health, when I knew what the risk was that was out there. And I say that because a lot of people blush over, they're like, yeah, I feel a little burnout, and they just blow past it. It's a real space that more and more people in our culture, and this is a reality, and I want you to think about a couple things. And actually, I'm going to read some of your comments first and catch up, and then I'm going to, oh, Peyton, stop being crazy. So let's see, Mateo, meeting to meet is worse. Open office plans are proving to destroy the ability to deeply connect. Absolutely, focus and work. Remote working adds some individual benefit, but without connections, bonds are breaking, and our ideas of what should be right. Absolutely, it's also what's causing a lot of burnout. Everything needs balance. It takes all of the work to get to not half-assing to get us there. Absolutely, I agree with that. Yvette, last Monday I invited some friends to dinner. We decided to do that on a regular basis. Yeah, those kinds of things make happen. Carol, this is exactly the space I'm about to get into. Yeah, she was on DI for 6 weeks from burnout at work. I want to talk about the reality of what's going on in our culture right now, because I don't think you understand the significance of what burnout is causing. This is such a hot topic for me. Bodhi was created out of that time. Absolutely. So here's the thing. Beautiful things come out of our rock bottoms. Absolutely. I really, truly believe that our most impactful, significant, painful rock bottoms lead us to the most beautiful space. What goes down must come up, and there's a yin and yang to it. And I want to create a little sense of reality for you. Some of you know, first of all, that we've done things like the dash, right? We all have this space where we're born and the space where we die, and there's this dash in between of your life. Right now, the average lifespan in the US is actually declining. We are ranked 27th in the world for average lifespans right now. And there are countries like Cuba, and I don't know if anyone else gets upset about that. Cuba has a higher lifespan, average lifespan, than the US. And I think about things that are going on in Cuba and the fact that we as the US, with all of the things that are available to us, the resources, how can we be ranked 27th, and how can our average age span be declining, lifespan be declining? Right now it's about 76.5 or 78.6 is about the average lifespan. There are countries over in Okinawa and whatever that have 87 is their average lifespan. So I want you to think about that. The other thing is right now, and this is statistics taken from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, from stress management, depression. I mean, I have done a lot of research in this space. We are ranked #1 for stress, anxiety, and the use of antidepressants. Right now, documented, 1 out of 4 women in the United States is on some form of antidepressant. That's documented. That's not the coping addictive ways, such as food, such as alcohol, such as over-the-counter drugs, such as drugs that are illegal. That's not counting any of that. And I know, because I had a lot of those addictive behaviors when it came to food and working out and fat burners and alcohol and shopping. And I had a lot of things that took the edge off back in the day when I was really in a high level of burnout. They're right now. So there's also 1 out of 10 over the age of 12, and this is going up drastically, is on some form of antidepressant. That's our children, and that's not counting the AHAD, yeah, I said that right, medication as well. We are medicating so much because people want to be numb. Right now in the US, there is $500 billion spent in medical costs to exactly what Carol's talking about, for stress and anxiety in the workplace. That is insane to me. It is insane to me that we revere ourselves as being the country of opportunity, and that it's the American dream. And I think it's a freaking nightmare right now. And I think we need to have a reality check around what we're doing to ourselves and what we're doing to our kids, and all of the shoulding we're piling on top of ourselves that say, this is how we're supposed to show up. This is what success looks like. And when we get into that space and wonder why more than half, and it's the levels of stress that's increased over the last 5 years, the rates are staggering, that more than 2/3 of the population feels burnt out. Is anybody else think that that's crazy? That's ridiculous? That it's our opportunity? It's one of the reasons I'm here every morning, because y'all with me are part of the solution. We are the leaders that get to step forward and do something different. We are the people that when you've experienced burnout, like what Carol's talking about, you say, then what do I do that's different? How do I create a space? It's why I talk about focus management, why you need the bookends. It's why I'm so adamant about teaching you about your own self-care and creating that space of compassion, because it's only when I reclaimed that for myself that I was able to start to step forward. And you know, my mom and I have this joke. And I was just having a conversation the other day, somebody freaked out when they heard my age. Yes, I am 46, I own that, it's great. And what's interesting, and I get it, I do not look my age. I absolutely 1000% know I don't look my age. Both with my height, how I look, I get it. And if I were to show you a picture of me when I was back in corporate, and when I was back right before I had my rock bottom moments, I look 10 years older than my age now when I was in those environments 10 years ago. My mom and I joke all the time. She goes, I swear to you, you're the only person I know that looks younger every year. I said, yeah, there's something about reclaiming your life and knowing what's meaningful for you and what has value and saying no to the rest of it. That there's something about, you want to know the fountain of youth? It's tapping into your purpose. It's tapping into your passion. It's saying no to all of the shooting and the noise and the pressure and the stress and the opportunities to create burnout for yourself. And it's living a meaningful life that's not about suffering and complaining and living in a coma and being stuck in a fog. It's about living a life with passion and joy and connection and community and reaching out. And so if you want to know the fountain of youth, it's called reclaiming your life. It's called owning your life, saying yes to yourself, and showing up in integrity in that space. And I truly believe that is the magic pill. If you want a magic pill, it's taking care of yourself first. It's putting yourself first. It's eating foods that fuel your body. It's moving your body so that you can show up and serve others. It's filling your cup first, always. No exceptions, non-negotiable, because the only way you can show up for other people is to do that. And I just got on a whole rant because this space lights me up. It's why I do this work. Tell it, Candy, that's funny. Yes, I'm on a roll. What else is new? I see usually 50% with chronic and autoimmune diseases in my practice. Yeah, and Carol, you know that most of that is physiological symptoms showing up from stress and anxiety. Most people's problems, pains, joint issues, inflammation, all of those things and many more, even cancers, oftentimes are a result of the stress and anxiety going on in our life. It's the space that we bought into, and we are creating physiological manifestations of the shit we're holding on to. It's why yesterday we did the breathing exercise. So many people are doing above the neck or shallow breathing. They're like, or they're holding their breath. That's exactly how I manifested. By the way, I've not had any issues with my hernia. I don't even know if it even still is like there. I have no gastrointestinal issues. My inflammation is out of my body. I have no mass that shows up anymore on an MRI. This is the power of what you can do for your body when your mindset is straight, when your heart set is straight, and when your soul set is straight. And when you start to say yes to yourself in a powerful way that says, my life is about this, not all of that, the fountain of youth opens up, and it's this magical, wonderful pill of light and energy and awesomeness, and you will be able to access more and do more and heal yourself. And so thank God there's people like Carol and other holistic healers and people that are out there that can help you navigate and move into that space, because we need people that can help us get connected back. And that's a lot of the work that Carol does. She gets you connected back into your body so that you can start to release all that stuff that's building up, that's creating those autoimmune diseases and chronic pain and all that other crap, right? And Carol, and those are the ones who admit their health to me. Yeah, and the thing is, you got to take responsibility. Here's the thing. People who don't take responsibility, who want to blame, well, it's all the carcinogens in the world. It's all this, it's all, yes, and none of that stuff's affecting me. My health is in top condition right now. And you know what? I don't take a lot of supplements. I don't take a lot of different things. I eat really well. I take care. I drink a ton of water. And the thing is you don't need all that crap that's been, you know, put out there, because a lot of it's not even the grade you want. You need to take the responsibility to make sure that what you are putting in your body is actually what your body needs. So find the people that can do muscle testing on you. Find the people that can understand that connection back into your body. People like Carol who are going to help you. And Carol, same thing. Yeah, hell yes, the Fountain of Youth. At 48, she looked younger than 12 years ago. And I agree, because I know Carol, we were in situations where we were in burnout together. And I would say that both of us have we're like Benjamin Button, right? We're reversing an age. I think it's fantastic because we've both tapped into the space that allows us to truly be in our purpose and really be in a space that's meaningful for us. And yeah, it's almost always stress. It's physiological. And if you don't believe that there are effects of what stress you are carrying in your body has, I really suggest you go out and look. If you have certain spaces that are inflamed or certain spaces there are direct fears that are associated with that. Things in your back oftentimes are, you're not, and depending on what side of your body, you have the receiving side, which is your left side, and your doing side. Where your pain's showing up is very indicative to what stress, what beliefs, what stories, what narratives you're carrying around. So just want you guys to know that. And then the last thing, and tomorrow we're going to talk about then how to become more motivated, because once again, these conversations go like deeper than I expect. Because the last thing I want you to think about when you're thinking about why you're unmotivated is fuzzy next steps. And so this goes back into that lack of clarity. Sometimes we're unclear about the goals. We're unclear about our boundaries. We're unclear about the expectations we need to set. And then we're really fuzzy and diluted on next steps. And one of the things that gets people unmotivated is when they try to boil the ocean or eat the elephant, when they want to take a bite that's way too big for where you're actually ready for. And so what happens is you get overwhelmed because you're like, oh my God, there's a mountain I have to climb, instead of just taking the first step. And so oftentimes you need to take whatever the next step is and break it down into something that is much more bite-sized, much more palatable, something that allows you a quick win. And one of the best ways, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but one of the best ways to create motivation is to get quick wins. So when you can start to take small pieces and you can get an accomplishment, you can get accomplishment. When we feel that sense of accomplishment, when we feel that sense of success, it creates momentum for us to want more. And so find ways to set yourself up for success while still continuing to grow and push yourself along the way. So if you are feeling fuzzy, and if you're sitting around going, I don't know what to do next, I don't know what's the next step, I don't know how to start, I know what the goal is, but I don't know where to start, it's because you're trying to tackle something that's too big and you need to break it down. And so one of the things you can do is say, okay, if this is the big thing I want, what are the 5 major milestones I want inside of that space? What are going to be the 5 things that need to happen in order for that? And back it up, reverse engineer it, and then say, okay, if I focus on this first one, what are the 6, 7, 8, 10 steps that I need to get that done? Okay, step 1 is this. So if I did step 1, what would step 2 be? And if you can say about 3 steps ahead in each turn, so you can say if the first step is, oh, I just need to make that phone call. Okay, so then the first step is make that phone call. The second step is then I need to send a follow-up. Okay, then the third step, then that's all you need to do. Then when you get in the second, then start and just keep building the steps one at a time. If you are feeling fuzzy, if you're feeling unsure, if you're feeling like you don't know where to go next, break it down, make it smaller, and give yourself quick wins to get the momentum going. Let's see, Mateo, I ordered the genetic testing kit for healthcare. Mateo is in what we think can never more important than what we need to know. Data destroys fear. Yes, when it's the right data. And I will just caveat that because I think it's interesting as someone who's done graduate level statistics, and I'm a Six Sigma black belt, which is quality, not, although I do box. I think it's interesting when people are like, well, statistics stay. It's only as good as the statistics actually are. Data is only good as the context that it's given. Data is just information, and it's very important to know what context the data is being placed in, because data for the sake of data means nothing. Data needs to have contextual structure and form, and there needs to be something about what the data is measuring or what it's communicating. And so I just want to be really clear, because people say that, and I feel like sometimes that gets to be what gets in their way, and that gets to be a cop-out when they say, well, the data says. Yes, and what was the container that the data was delivered in? What's the group? I'm always curious as to what was the subject group that was tested. What was because it's amazing to me when people say 4 out of 5 dentists. Okay, is that 4 out of 5? Or is that 4,000 out of 5,000? Because there's a big difference when you're looking at what was the size of the test group. What was the container that that data was taken in? And so I look at reputable sources that have over time been proven to have data that is consistent within a certain container. But be mindful of, just data for the sake of data. It has no meaning unless there's contextual container around it. So I just say that for some who do go, well, it's the data says, yes, and don't let that be your cop out. You still get to take the data and interpret it and make decisions and make options as a result of that. Data does, the more data you have, the more options you have available to you, the better choices you make. Absolutely 100% agree with that. So I just add that out there. Data is data, reporting is data over time, information is conscious design. Intelligence are the decisions made and results tracked. Yeah, absolutely. And there needs to be a consistency and pattern in what and how you're looking at the data and what decisions you're making inside that space. So I love that. And yes, I like data. I'm a geek at heart for sure. And very, very mindful about what responsibility I have when it comes to data that I'm taking in. And so I offer that to you because for some people, they either get analysis paralysis, they get overwhelmed with data, or they rely too heavily on data being their only indication of right, wrong, this, that, whatever, and not making intuitive decisions based on what the data is telling them. And that is the significant difference, is you still need to have an intuitive connection to what the data is providing and what that means for you. If you leave the data just in isolation, it's basically you're letting a computer, you're letting something dictate and make decisions for you instead of you taking that responsibility and control. Herbie, I love that people they say, who are they and what makes them so knowledgeable in everything? Yeah, it's amazing. There's a lot of judgment in that space, right? Yeah, yes, Herbie. And so you're like, so I want to know that it's been validated. And sometimes you have to validate that data for yourself. You need to go out and test it, right? It's one of the reasons I do love Brene Brown, because as a researcher, she talks about her test group. She talks about the number of pieces of data that she's brought forth that she sees patterns in. And she's even tried to dispel some of the patterns because it's things she didn't want to believe. So I appreciate Brendan Burchard does the same thing in a lot of his work. He very analytical, and the data and the research that he does. So when I look at data, I look at people that have track records, and I look at how they're collecting data and how they're using it to show patterns to help people see connections inside that space. Anecdotal versus actual quality and sample size. Absolutely. So important. So I just add that. Be mindful of what data you're consuming, because right now we have a lot of data that's not true, in my opinion. It's very slanted. It's very biased. It's very agenda driven. And so I know this from someone who used to give data to one of my executive VPs, who then my metrics person would call me and be like, oh my God, Candy, what did you do? And I'm like, no. Here's what I sent, Steve. Here's Steve's response that says, well, I don't like that outlier. It doesn't really tell the story. And he'd just pull out one of the data points. I have no control over that. That's an executive VP taking. I gave him the exact graph, the measurement, whatever, and he wants to tell a different story, which can be very damaging because he had an agenda. He was trying to move an initiative forward in our organization, and that data point didn't tell his story the way he wanted to. So be mindful. A lot of people that put data out there have an agenda tied to it, especially when it comes to economical, political. Be mindful of where you're getting your data and validate for yourself and ask yourself what's true. So anyway, a little side tangent there, but I love the discussion. Just so y'all know, I am putting some amazing things. I was brainstorming with somebody yesterday because Monday is the 100th episode of Coffee Chats with Coach Candy, which is just insane to me. So we're going to do a week of 100 next week. So every day is going to have something going on. We're going to have a big celebration. For those of you that show up every day, there's going to be some surprises. Those of you that are live, those of you that watch, you still are going to get all kinds of awesome stuff. And the people that are here, that are present, I'm going to have some surprises, some opportunities, and I'm going to leave it at that. But we're going to do the week of 100. And I don't know fully what that looks like yet. But I'm going to bring in some things and kick things off for our week on Monday as we hit the 100th episode. For all you showing up with me every morning. Insane that we are at 100 episodes. That went fast for sure. That being said, I will be back tomorrow, obviously, for episode number 99 here at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, so that we can close this conversation, at least for a while, on motivation and start to move into some other things. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for your contributions, for engaging in the discussion today, for connecting into the conversation. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow to kind of closing some of these loops, closing this up, and then getting us geared up over the weekend for a really fun, really explosive 100th episode day and week as we start to have some more fun and just take things to another level. So anyway, love you all. 99, woohoo, right? I know, crazy, crazy, crazy. So with that, everybody, heart-to-heart hugs, huge heart-to-heart hugs. I love you all. Bye. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.